Every honeybee fills with jealousy when they see you out with me. You're much sweeter.
A couple years ago, Josh Berry and his sous chef and one of the other cooks from the Union restaurant came into the Honey Exchange and they said, we have this idea, we want to put some hives on the roof of the Press Hotel. And at the time, I said very quickly, yes, we want to do this. We want to be a part of this, knowing full well that I had no idea how I was going to accomplish this task. And as I've already said, Thalassa walked into our life and I said, hey, there's this opportunity at the Press Hotel. Would you like to get involved in that? And she jumped at it really, really quickly. I love talking to Josh about his bees and about honey because his enthusiasm for it, it makes him so happy that those bees are up on the roof that makes me happy. And that's worth more to me than anything I can think of. So, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Berry.
Perfect. So thanks everybody for coming for this. This is great. I brought so much of a discussion as kind of like a show and tell too of what we're doing with the honey that Thalassa helped us get up there. And before I start, I do want to say that I was up on the roof jumping for joy with all the bee poop because it is a thing and it was really cool to see that. And we didn't know what it was at first, so we had to call her and be like, what is this? And she explained it to us and then she was happy and we were happy and it was a pretty cool story. So I've never thought about honey as I have until 2 years ago. We did go to see Phil and we talked about it. Matt, my sous chef, and I went in there and I'm like, what is this place? The Honey Exchange. This is kind of cool. You know, we were on the way to the winter indoor Portland Farmers Market that used to be at the Maine Girls Academy. So it was right there on Stevens Ave and we went in and we saw Phil and I was like, it was fall-ish. It was still cold weather. And I'm like, so I've been thinking about putting bees on the roof of the Press Hotel. And he's like, yep, let's do it. Yeah, that's a thing, you know, and it was kind of like that. And but we both kind of realized that the fall isn't the time to put bees on the roof, 7 stories up, Maine, winter, not really good. So we waited till the springtime, and then we connected, and he's like, so I have this lady, her name's Thalassa, and she wants to help you do the bees. I'm like, okay. And after that, it was like, we all had this like love at first sight with bees, you know. Bill, our chief engineer over there, he's like the bee whisperer, right? And he's up there and he puts pools of water out for them and he like plants. It's really, it's become infectious through the hotel. Not that the building is a LEED certified building and we don't look at it to help out anything and nobody really cared if we wanted to do it or not. And it was just a passion project for that. The hotel itself, we probably go through 50 to 60 pounds of honey a month. So there's no way we'd be able to get all the honey from our bees. So this is a very boutique brand of honey for us. And so what we do is we take this honey and we try to use it in a lot of different ways that you wouldn't just have on a peanut butter sandwich or anything like that. So what I wanted to show you first is this is one of our frames of honey. And it's beautiful and I don't want to do anything with it. Just look at it so much. But at some point we're going to have to like eat it, right? And that's a fun thing. But some of the other honeys I have here, and when I'm done with explaining these honeys, I'm going to set them up over on the bar, and so if anybody wants to taste them, they can. I'll walk through all the ingredients and how we do it. So I've broken these honeys up into 3 different sections, and part of this is what Thalassa was talking about, the honey dinner that we had. And it was so great. Doing a honey dinner is sticky business, right? That's a thing, and you get it sorry, I had to do that pun, right? So I broke these, I kind of whipped these up into blended honeys, infused honeys, and then altered honeys, okay? So the first one I'm going to talk about is salted honey, and I don't know if you guys can see the color. I tried to put it in these glass jars. So when we added just regular Maine sea salt to this, the first time it was great, but because honey has so much water in it, it thinned it down a little bit. So we actually blended up some of the comb with it, and that little bit of wax helps suspend it, and it becomes this great creamy color. We kind of treat this like we would like salted caramel, or if you wanted to add a little bit of seasoning to something that's overly sweet. Again, cooking with honey all the time, especially for a honey dinner, you have to balance the amount of sweetness or else it's really sickly. So by adding the salt into it, it was a really great opportunity for us to try that. The next one is our curry infused honey. And so we make a what's called ras al hanout. And if anybody's familiar with Middle Eastern cuisine or Moroccan cuisine, ras al hanout means head of the shop. And it's actually a spice blend of many different spices. But we added some turmeric and some of that spice blend to this, and we let it steep for about I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, and then strained it out. And the color that this gets is just amazing. I'm totally not using my clicker here because we have different pictures of food that you can probably see. So when we add this, like I have for this for like lunch all the time, just curried honey on some hummus with some dukkha spice. It's delicious. So the next one is a really fun one that I think when you guys taste it, you'll understand why. It doesn't look like much, but this is smoked honey. Now what we do is we have a smoker in the restaurant, and we pour honey out onto a large like cookie sheet pan, the most surface area you can get. Honey is actually funny. We never knew what we'd get when we started to smoke this, because we actually tried to do different items, like vegetables, for instance, don't smoke really well. They need fat. So if you smoke meats or smoke cheese, you will really absorb that smoke flavor. But honey, on the other hand, really, really takes it. So we had to actually, the first time we did it, it overtook the honey flavor. And what you're always trying to do, especially with any kind of boutique ingredient that's special to this, you just want to enhance the flavor of it. You don't really want to mask the flavor of it. And so we actually had to turn down the smoking element of it because it was so much. But one of my favorites, definitely. Okay, so the next ones we're going to be, these are like the altered honeys. So this is our garlic fermented honey. And as you can tell, it's very thin. Okay, so garlic has a lot of water in it, as any vegetables do. And once we put the garlic in there, let it sit with like cheesecloth on it for about a month, it started to ferment, and it would bubble up a little bit, and then it would release a lot of the water in that, and it would really change the structure of the honey. But the flavor that it gives off is this like perfume kind of funk of garlic and honey together. And this is a really exciting thing. And we actually are fermenting honey right now with a few different ingredients to kind of see what that would do. This one will probably be one of the most interesting ones that if we can, there's a lot of people here, so just taste a little bit if you can, make sure enough. This is whipped honey. A difference, so whipped honey compared to creamed honey, right? And I'm sure people have had creamed honey before, you can buy it in the grocery store. This, we actually take an ingredient called VersaWhip. It's just a modified soy protein. You can find it in health food stores. Vegans or vegetarians would use it as a replacement for eggs or egg whites or something like that. But what it does when it bonds with anything with like a sucrose or fructose is it really triples its volume, almost quadruples it. So this is like honey fluff, if you think of it. And it broils well. We've done little tarts with it, and it's really cool. So the next one will definitely be the one that everybody's been asking about. This is honey pearls. Now these are like little jewels of honey, and you can do this at home with any water-based ingredient. It can be orange juice, cranberry juice, honey, cream, melted vanilla ice cream. It can be anything as long as you add gelatin to it. So gelatin will bond with any water-based liquid, but gelatin doesn't bond with any oil-based liquid like olive oil or canola oil. So what we do is we take honey, we add a little bit of water to it to just make the gelatin absorb faster. We bloom gelatin, add it to the honey, keep it at a room temp kind of body temperature, pour it into a squeeze bottle or like an old ketchup container or a mustard bottle if you have one at home, and then drip it ever so slightly into ice cold oil. Now oil will never freeze, but if you use extra virgin olive oil, it'll become solid under certain temperatures. So we like using canola oil. So once the oil's cold and you drip the warm honey into it, by the time it sinks to the bottom of the vessel that the cold oil's in, it turns into like a little pearl or a honey gummy bear. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is, right? And it encapsulates it, and we use this for a lot of different things. And it's a really cool kind of mouthfeel. It melts in your tongue, and it does add a little, fun pop. At Union, we're always trying to look for the aha moment in these dishes, and some things like this are kind of cool. The next few honeys that we have here are blended honey. So these are ingredients that we would add to the honey to help enhance that flavor in a different way. So the first one is a Prosecco and honey butterscotch, and we did this for one of the desserts we have. It has a really kind of an interesting texture. So we reduced honey by about 2/3 until it's very thick like caramel. And you have to do it slowly. If you do it too hot, honey, the sugar content in honey is higher than that of sugar itself, and it will burn really quick. So you have to just do it on a very low temperature and just try to evaporate some of that liquid out. And then we replace that liquid with Prosecco, which is like a type of Italian champagne. And then once we cool it over an ice bath, the Prosecco bubbles kind of stay suspended. So when you put that on a plate, it looks like, you know, like glitter, like we bedazzled the caramel, right? And that's kind of cool. So the next one here, so I spent a year in Europe when I was training to be a chef, and then I lived in Italy for another 6 months, just traveling around, knocking on doors, you know, ask if I can cook somewhere. One of the places that I stayed when I was in Italy, they made this dish, and it was called Gorgonzola Dolce, which is Gorgonzola cheese is similar to like a blue cheese, might be a little bit spicy, and then Dolce is sweet. So there's actually a recipe called Agro Dolce, sweet and sour. And what the chefs did over there, they'd take Gorgonzola or blue cheese or Roquefort or any blue vein cheese that has a nice flavor to it, and they blend it 50-50 with honey. And you're gonna get this incredible spread of flavors on there from the saltiness of the cheese, but also the sweetness of the honey, and like that sweet and sour kind of flavor. It's great with like steaks or on salads or just on toast, and it's a delicious thing. And we use this for a lot of different ways. The last honey we're going to talk about is, this is Oregano Ash honey, and this is one of the happy accidents in the kitchen, right? Hashtag chef life, it happens all the time, right? So we got a lot of, we go to the farmer's market usually every Saturday, and actually 2 of my sous chefs and 3 of the other chefs are there right now, getting everything for the restaurant, you know? And Beth at Dandelion Springs is like, hey, I got all this oregano, right? And so I bought way more than regular that I'd ever need. And so we had to dry it out. So I told the chefs, put it in the oven, 200 degrees, really low, and we're just gonna dry this out. We can preserve this nice fresh oregano for later on. Yeah, so 200 turned into 400, and it burnt that stuff so black. But it's how do you utilize the product, right? And so what are we gonna do with this? And I had all the sous chefs, we sat around a table and we're staring at this huge pan of burnt oregano. And so we blended it up in a coffee bean grinder and turned it into ash, okay? Which is completely edible, and it does taste like oregano, but with a almost that char, smoky flavor. So when doing the honey dinner that Talassa was mentioning, we were trying to incorporate honeys into different ways and not just plain honey. So we added some of the ash to it. It does have a little chalky flavor, but it adds this texture that is really kind of like a pear, like that wet sand kind of flavor. And so we added that onto a couple different dishes, and it really worked, you know, and I was really excited about that. Again, I'll put these honeys over here when we're done, but I do just want to thank Phil and Megan and Talassa for, you know, having us, the Press Hotel, and this partnership that we have, and we're all kind of neighbors in Portland. And like the famous words of Winnie the Pooh, you know, a day without a friend is like a honey without a single drop, or a pot without a single drop of honey in it. So through this experience, I've gained a lot more friends, and I'm really excited for the future. So thank you guys so much.